Not too long ago, I was talking a little bit about Dr. Albert Caine. Well, not too long ago for me. It may have been quite a while for you. How am I supposed to know when you're watching these videos? For that matter, there may be some goofball out there who's watching these things out of sequence. There's always one in every crowd. Oh well. Anyway, I was talking about dear Dr. Albert Caine, and in 2002 we truly enjoyed seeing his wonderful Scream House. I particularly got a big kick out of it the first time I went into the Scream House. You see, one thing that makes the event magical is when you have scare actors who aren't just scare actors, but are scare actors who really love what they do and get into it in a brilliant and beautiful way. And it was just such a fellow playing Dr. Albert Caine in the Scream House the first time I went through it. And as I went into it, suddenly, stepping out from behind a window frame, he got right up in my face and engaged me personally and said, your time has come. Now I hope to do some justice to his delivery, but I'm afraid I'm nowhere near as talented as that individual was. It sent shivers down my spine. That's the sort of scare that really I find effective. The sort that is a bit personal and engages you and creeps up on you later when you think about it. Any damn fool can get a tin can full of nickels and jump out from behind a fog-spewing rock and go blah and give you a jump scare. But it takes sheer brilliant talent and genius to give you the sort of scare that will linger into your unconscious and haunt your dreams at night. And that was just the sort of fellow. And that was one of the things that made the caretaker very endearing to me. Well, he was endearing to many people. He was so successful in 2002 that the next year, when he was no longer the star of the show, that they let him come back and bring his house back again. Yes, the wonderful little funeral parlor called the Scream House returned in 2003. It was just as delightful and effective as it was the previous year. But then, the year after that, he came back yet again. For 3 years running, you could find Dr. Caine somewhere at Halloween Horror Nights. In 2004, when they expanded all the way, when they expanded, I had to point her out, lurking in the shadows, sinister cat. When they had that little house called Horror Night Nightmares, which is a fine site, but it was a average house. In 2004, when they had both IOA and USO involved in the event. For those of you who don't speak acronese, that's Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Orlando, when it, for the only time in history, expanded into both parks. And that year they did have Horror Night Nightmares, where they had maybe 4 returning icons. Ooh, we're touching on shaky ground there, and that's an issue we'll discuss in a future video. But anyway, Dr. Caine came back for scenes in that lovely little house. But then it wasn't until 2006 that he returned again, as part of Sweet 16, that wonderful reunion year, retrospective year of the entire history of Halloween Horror Nights, as we may very well be doing again this year, based on all indications. And so, we had the Scream House resurrected, and that year we found out something new about Dr. Caine. Well, we kind of had guessed it before because we knew the backstory of Cindy Berra and her father Paul Berra, so we just assumed certain things, but this time they were confirmed. We found out that there was a raison d'etre behind Dr. Caine's search for the immortal soul and his strange experiments. It wasn't just that he was a morbid, cruel fiend. There was a reason that the respected surgeon became what he became. It was a personal thing, a deep, tragic loss. You see, his lovely little daughter, Cindy, no longer Cindy Barra, Cindy Caine, and I just thank whatever gods that be they didn't decide to name that character Candy or Sugar. Anyway, little Cindy Caine was in fact his daughter, and she had tragically died at a young age, and it was that terrible loss that drove him mad and led him to seek out the mystery of immortality, lurking and searching through the corpses, both and not quite yet but almost corpses that he eviscerated and vivisected, looking for the secret of the soul. The soul he really wanted to find, of course, was Cindy's, and if he could find it, perhaps he could restore it and have her back to him again. Well, he had her body. He dug it up, and using the finest embalming techniques, preserved it for posterity. And when you went into Screamhouse Resurrected, you would see many portraits enshrined in places of honor of the poor, dear, departed young lady. And then, if you looked in the right room at the right time, you would see a casket containing the preserved corpse of the innocent little dear. But she was lost to him, and he tried desperately, and he amassed acolytes and minions and followers who were his disciples, these cultists in their white robes and their shaved heads with the mark on their forehead, like very similar to Charles Manson's minions in the late 60s. And they were there trying desperately in their fanatical religious fervor, obeying the will of Albert Caine to try to find Cindy and restore her to life. No longer was he quite as, well, he was still sinister and terrifying and evil, but it wasn't mindless evil. Now there was something sympathetic about him. It put him on the same league as great horror movie villains like Vincent Price as Dr. Anton Phibes, who wasn't just murdering people, he was trying to restore his lost wife, suspended in a glass coffin, hoping to reanimate her. There's something sympathetic in this, because you see, it gives him a certain, dare we say, family values. You know, the idea of blood ties. That'd be a good name for the event this year. Well, hopefully they'll be coming back this year, and the greatest hope is that Cindy will be back, and not just as a lifeless corpse, because last year at Shadows of the Past Scare Zone that mysteriously appeared in a burst of red light in a certain dark alley in the final week of Halloween Horror Nights 19. Last year, the height, what made that Scare Zone special to most of us Halloween horror nuts, was Cindy. She was back. And I remember seeing her for the very first time, not just a corpse or a memory, but an actual living, well, undead, breathing, was she breathing? Whatever, there she was. And I spoke to her and said, "Oh, my God, Cindy, I wanted to meet you for years and years." And she looked up at me and smiled, a little girlish smile, and said, "Yes, they finally let me come out and play." Oh, that made that Scare Zone for me, and that's why so many of us are waiting with breathless anticipation in the hopes that this year at Halloween Horror Nights 20 we will see Cindy and Albert together again in a haunted house, restoring the family business with their blood ties of evil. How sweet. And that is something that I'm looking forward to tremendously. I don't know for sure, but that's what we're all hoping. Well, I don't have time to talk about Paolo Ravinsky right now on this video. That'll have to come next, even though I made this color scheme with the eyes just for Paolo because it kind of gives me that director look. But we'll do that next time. Ta-ta.